In this video, we are going to talk about 10 European rulers who were actually black. So before starting this video, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. All you've ever heard is that Europe is a land ruled by white people and that black-skinned people are immigrants there. Unless you're a historian, you probably take this as a fact, or you may not have ever thought about it. Either way, there have been rulers that were black, and in this video, we are going to look at 10 of them. In cases where there are shortage of evidences of the rulers being black, the nomenclature can assist by indicating what they look like. Without further ado, let's look at the 10 black rulers that led in Europe. Number 10, Cadmus. We wanted to start the list off with someone that has had a major impact on Europe, allegedly. A figure of Greek mythology who got into history books primarily by taking the Phoenicians' alphabet and adapting it to form the written language of the Greeks. He is considered the founder of Thebes, an important city in ancient Greece, probably named after the original city of Thebes in ancient Africa. According to Greek mythology, he was the son of Agenor, a Chemite from Memphis in Africa, son of Poseidon. His mother, Telephassa, was the daughter of Nilus deity of the river Nile in Africa. So based on his lineage, he was a descendant of Africans in a time when Greeks described their gods as well as the Chemites, or ancient Egyptians, as very dark-skinned people. Number 9, Europa. For the next figure, we stay in ancient Greece, and even in Cadmus' family. Europa, who was Cadmus' sister, and one of someone you might have heard of wives, the infamous Zeus. Her blackness is proved through Cadmus' lineage, since they were siblings. She was born in Phoenicia from the same African parents. According to Greek mythology, while in Phoenicia, Zeus saw her. Astonished by her beauty, he turned into a white ox and approached her. He kidnapped her and took her to his land, where she became queen. It is believed that the continent of Europe was named after her. It may be a bit hard to believe today, but the European continent is named after a black queen. Please don't forget to miss the number 1, because it is gonna blow up your mind. Number 8, Hannibal Barca. Let's head out of Greek mythology and look at a more recent and perhaps a more well-known historical figure, the famous Hannibal Barca. Born in Carthage, or present-day Tunisia in Africa, around 247 BC, he was the son of Hamilcar Barca, a Carthaginian general at the time. As the son of a general, Hannibal was bound to take hold of the military, defend and preserve his land, and conquer others. And that was the case when he went to war with the Roman Empire, actually in a series of them, more popular known as the Punic Wars. He is known for his crossing of the Europe Alps using African elephants. At first, victory was on his side, and he managed to defeat Roman forces and even reached Rome's capital. At this point in time, he ruled over present-day Spain. He was about to defeat the mighty Roman Empire. But unfortunately, because of his patience, he let the Romans recover from their defeats. They recovered their land and forced Hannibal into exile. Later on, Hannibal will commit suicide rather than surrender to the Romans. The proofs of him being an African, aside from his birthplace, include a coin minted in Italy with his face on it, and that face was a black African man. Number 7, Danis. Danis was born, unlike the explorer rulers of his time, not in Phoenicia, but in Kemet, in Africa. He was the king of Libya in Africa, and was the son of King Belus. He had 2 brothers, Aegyptus, king of Arabia, and Cepheus, king of Ethiopia. This was a way for the Greeks to show the common origins of Libyans. Egyptians and Nubians, who are even considered as sons of Ham, father of all blacks in the Bible. So we have enough evidence to affirm that he was indeed black and African, according to the Greeks. According to Greek mythology, Danis is thought to have ruled the city of Argos in present-day Greece. Aegyptius Danis' brother, had 50 sons, and Danis had 50 daughters. Egyptius proposed a plan to marry his sons to Danis' daughters, 4 of which were the daughters of Europa. Danis refused and fled to Argos, which was ruled at the time, by a king called Pelasgus. That king, oddly enough, was succeeded by none other than Danis. It is also believed by some that the Argead dynasty might have something to do with Danis, meaning that he might be an ancestor to Philip of Macedon, whose son is none other than Alexander the Great. So, Danis the African was a very distant ancestor to Philip of Macedon and his son Alexander the Great. Before we proceed, we would like you to know that in ancient and medieval Europe, people who had a different skin color were named after terms that explained that their skin was black. Some rulers in this list are, aside from their official name, known as and were called Moors, meaning they were from the North and Western Africa. Others, especially in the Roman Empire, were named Niger or Afer, words that mean black. The word Afer might also be a rude word for the naming of the whole continent of Africa. Number 6, Pescennius Niger. This emperor is said to have been the first black emperor of Rome. Although he didn't even last a year on the most powerful seat of Europe at the time, his rise to power was unconventional in its methods. He was appointed by the previous emperor, Commodus, as delegate in Syria, and while he was there, Commodus was succeeded by a man named Pertinax, who was in turn murdered and succeeded by Commodus' close man, Didius Julianus. Pescennius Niger, upon hearing what had happened in Rome, where he was still very popular, managed to take the throne and proclaim himself as emperor. The empire was divided, and rivals started revolting from all corners. In a few months, Niger was murdered, and a new emperor was crowned. Niger was born in the Roman Empire, but the exact place is unknown. It is assumed that because of his dark skin, which is also the reason his name was Niger, meaning black, he was born somewhere in Africa. Another reason to believe that he was an African can be that he served in a higher position of government in Egypt during his earlier years. Before we move towards number 5, why don't you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you get latest updates from us. Number 5, Marcus Ophelius Macrinus. As for Emperor Marcus, there is little to no doubt of him being an African. He was born in what is now known as Algeria, in a place now called Sirtium, although it was known as Caesarea when he was born. He ascended to the throne of the Roman Empire after a few years from when Pescennius Niger came to be emperor, 23 years to be exact, and lasted for just about a year on the throne, just like his fellow African. His reign was so short-lived that he didn't even manage to literally sit on the throne. He never went to Rome, the capital, as emperor. During his reign, he tried to resolve conflicts with neighboring kingdoms, Parthia and Armenia, in a diplomatic way, and succeeded for the most part. His diplomatic endeavors resulted in the depletion of the empire's treasury that led to a riot. His predecessor's aunt took advantage of the situation and managed to put her grandson on the throne. Macrinus was executed in the war that followed. However short his reign may be, he will be remembered as an African who held the highest power of his time. He was said to have been of Mari origin, meaning a Moor from Africa. Number 4, Nicephorus Phocas. Let's go from the Western to the Eastern Roman Empire. Now, we find a ruler who had a different policy of handling foreign affairs. Quite opposite to Macrinus, Nicephorus Phocas was a military general who successfully carried out a coup and went on to have a bitter relationship with his neighbors. A diplomat called Bishop Liutprand from Rome, who wanted to tie the Byzantines and the Romans with the royal marriage, was annoyed with the cold reception he got from Nicephorus. This bishop went on to describe the emperor as a pygmy who had a fat head and bristle hair, and more important to our cause, as being in color and Ethiopian, where he's trying to point out that he was very dark-skinned and might have been of African descent. Ethiopian was the word used by Europeans to describe Africans and dark-skinned. He was born from a Greek family in Cappadocia, present-day Turkey, but is taught by Greek history at the time. Most of these areas were populated with descendants of Africans, first settlers who mixed with other populations. To this day, numerous populations from Southern Europe still carry African haplogroups or DNA. This might be the explanation. Number 3. Charlotte Sophia, Queen of England. Among the rulers on this list of black rulers in Europe, this queen's story is famous. Queen Charlotte Sophia was born in Germany to a ruling family of a small state called Mecklenburg-Strelitz and married George III of England at the age of 17. This royal marriage was a courtesy of the English royal family, who did not want to marry the king to someone with political interest, and Charlotte Sophia seemed to be a perfect fit. She was directly descended from Margarida de Castro e Sousa, a black brand of the Portuguese royal house. She was described as a true mulatto, meaning mixed race. It was said that she had a large nose and that her lips were too thick. To understand why a woman of mixed race would be in a European royal family, one must know that centuries earlier, Europe had been under control of the Moors, who ruled for many centuries. Moors were African Muslims who had conquered Europe and influenced European politics. As a result, many of the rulers of Southern Europe countries, such as Portugal and Spain, were black or mixed race even after the Moors were expelled. And with intermarriage, it spread through other European royal families. Queen Charlotte had 15 children, including Prince Edward, father of Queen Victoria of England, the great-great-grandmother of Queen Elizabeth II, the current Queen of England. So black was present in this family long before Meghan Markle, but this has been kept under wraps. Number 2, Kenneth MacAlpin. Who would have thought that there were black kings in ancient Scotland? The truth is that the Moors were dominant in Scotland between the 9th and 10th century. One of them was known as King Kenneth MacAlpin. The Christian converted Moorish Pictish Kenneth MacAlpin was also called Niger Val Dubh, a surname which means the black man. He was the first king of the Scott Alpin dynasty. According to the Scottish archaeologist David MacRitchie, Alpin, the father of Kenneth MacAlpin, was a half-black Piet and half-black Scotch, whose son Kenneth was the first to merge the two foremost branches of the blacks in Scotland. The forefather of Kenneth MacAlpin and all of his descendants was Fergus More, who is known as the first king of Scotland. When we study the etymology of his name, More, we notice that it means Moor or Moorish, which is black or black people. It is said that the plural of Moor is Morak, a word in Hungarian that means Moors, leading to black people again. Scholars prove that there is a very strong relationship between Scottish and Hungarian languages. All this proved that what we said was true. When Kenneth MacAlpin died, his younger Moorish brother, Donald I, succeeded him. It is a historical fact that Niger Val Dubh lived and reigned over certain black divisions in Scotland, and that a race known as the Sons of the Blacks succeeded him in history. It is understood that he was the son of the King of Scotland in the 10th century, Malcolm I. He took the throne from King Indolf in 962. The claim that he was black is strengthened by the fact that his name Dubh literally means the black. Number 1, Septimius Severus. Perhaps the one ruler that could make historians reach a consensus as to his being black and also his being a ruler is Septimius Severus. He was a Roman emperor and was born in a place called Leptis Magna, present-day Libya, and was an expansionist. he would wage war after war and was successful in most of them. The empire extended more in his time than in any other emperor. Although he was from Africa, it should not be assumed that he fought all the way through the ranks. He came from a wealthy family with some Italian descent. He moved to Rome and was able to enter the senatorial ranks during the time of emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius. After that, in a series of battles, he was able to sit on the throne of the Roman Empire. These were the 10 rulers of Europe who were, to some extent, Black or African. Some had subtle relations, while others were clearly connected. But throughout history, there must have been other European leaders who were, in fact, Black. That's it for today, guys. What do you think of our video? Please let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. And if you need sources, subscribe to our Patreon. The link is in the caption below. Thanks for watching.